Heartbreak in a Cloud. Read the passage about farmers in the 1800s, then answer the questions. In her book On the Banks of Plum Creek, Laura Ingalls Wilder described a plague of grasshoppers. These insects swept over her family's homestead where she was a child. She watched the insects approaching like a dark cloud. She saw them land on everything in sight. She felt them crawling on her skin. She heard their endless chewing, and she experienced the hard times that followed the loss of her family's whole wheat crop. What young Laura Ingalls did not know was that those insects, called Rocky Mountain locusts, devoured more than just her own corner of Minnesota. They swarmed across her vast portions of North America. This was not the first time it happened either. Areas hit by the 1874 grasshopper plague. Total area invaded. Area of greatest destruction. In 1874, the grasshoppers Wilder wrote about arrived during a bad drought. Hot, rainless weather meant farmers were already struggling. Losing their remaining crops was a terrible blow. Many settlers had not had time to store up food for the winter. Some who had been there longer were expecting to finally produce more than they needed to live. They were counting on selling the extra crops for badly needed cash. The grasshopper's plague meant starting all over again. The story gets worse. The insects polluted water supplies. They gave a bad taste to eggs and meat from chickens that ate them. Worst of all, the grasshoppers laid millions of eggs. The eggs could bring a new plague in the spring. People worked hard to disrupt the grasshopper attack. They built smoky fires around their fields. They netted bugs by the hundreds. They plowed eggs up to the surface to freeze. None of these strategies worked very well. They had a little success with hopper dozers. These wide metal scoops held oil or tar that trapped insects as the dozer was dragged across the field. Burning the fields also helped, but fire brought its own dangers. The only real choice was to wait and hope. For some settlers, the grasshoppers destroyed their spirits as well as their crops. They gave up and moved away, but many others kept trying. Some, like Pa Ingalls, left to go earn money somewhere else, then returned. Others held on, aided by relief efforts that brought in money, food, seeds, and supplies. Over time, those who stayed planted more fields. They planted different kinds of crops. They also built up reserves of food and grain. These actions gave some protection against getting wiped out again. Still, farmers anxiously watched any odd cloud coming from the west. They feared the return of the ravenous invaders that had wrecked so many lives. Number 1. Read the sentence from paragraph 1. They swarmed across vast portions of North America. What does the word swarmed mean as it is used in the sentence? A large or dense group of insects. B, moved in large numbers. C, a large number of honeybees that leave a hive. D, were climbing up. Number 2. What are the most likely reasons the author included the map in the passage? Choose 2 answers. A, the author wants to show the readers how great of an area the locust swarmed. B, the author wants to teach the reader about the difference in size between Canada and the United States. C, to prove that Mexico doesn't have locusts. D, to clarify where the locusts had the most destructive impact within the larger area that was invaded. E, to show where Laura Ingalls Wilder grew up. Number 3. What new information does the map add to what was presented in the text? A, how many people were affected. B, how big the grasshopper swarms were. C, what direction the grasshoppers traveled. D, where the grasshoppers did the most damage. Part A, number 4. How does the author organize and present most of the information in the passage? A, by explaining the problem and the solutions. B, by comparing grasshoppers to other insects. C, by describing events in chronological order. D, by giving information in order of importance. Part B. Which pair of details best supports your answer to Part A? They swarmed across vast portions of North America. People worked hard to disrupt the grasshopper attack. B. In her book On the Banks of Plum Creek, Laura Ingalls Wilder described a plague of grasshoppers. The story gets worse. C. In 1874, the grasshoppers Wilder wrote about arrived during a bad drought. Over time, those who stayed planted more fields. D. These insects swept over her family's homestead when she was a child. What young Laura Ingalls did not know was that those insects, called Rocky Mountain locusts, devoured more than just her own corner of Minnesota. Number 5. What actions did the farmers take to protect against getting wiped out again? Choose 2. A. They didn't take any action to protect them from getting wiped out. B. They planted different kinds of crops. C. They also built up reserves of food and grain. D. They moved and never returned. E. They bought insect repellent to spray on the crops.